Hello, everyone. I'm just doing a quick podcast today with Loads and Pax. Pax is the GM of Notorious, and they run alliance with Clash and Epoch, and Loads is a shot call for digital. And today, I just want to do a quick discussion about some of the new guild skills that have been introduced in the game, and then we'll also want to talk about the change in the structure tankiness, and lastly, wrap up with the new Siege rewards revamp system. So. I don't know if Axe or Loads, if you guys have anything you want to say at the start to introduce yourselves.
I'm pretty sure anybody who's going to watch this probably knows who I am, probably knows who Pax is as well.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So let's get started. Talk about the new guild skill, Blessing of Battle. This is a skill which is on a 5-minute cooldown, and it gives each of your guild members that are alive 200 DR, 500 HP every 3 seconds, 10% movement speed, and also full super armor for 30 seconds. So what are your thoughts on this new skill, guys?
Loads, you want to handle that first, or you want me to?
Yeah, I'll go into it. The skill, it sounds really good on paper. Like, wow, that's going to be amazing. And then you actually use it and you don't realize that it's actually way better than you thought it was going to be. It is overpowered. Like, it's kind of game breaking overpowered, to be honest. The cooldown's too short. The effects are too good. I think the idea behind it is nice. The cooldown is way too low. It's just realistically, you get the buff and you just win the fight. I think it's a free I win button, and it's really shit for a game like this.
Honestly, it's an abomination of a buff that doesn't belong in this game. It's horrible. It was a horrible implementation. It was a horrible idea. I understand the concept of, we don't want the weaker guilds to get farmed that hard. They need some kind of resistance, something like that. That's fine. Make this like, well, you're within a radius of your own base or something like that. The problem with this buff is that it's usable on offense, right? It incentivizes really stupid play. It actually incentivizes not interacting with your opponents and intentionally killing yourselves on their fort. The proper play with this buff is to ignore your opponents, hit their structures, die for it, come back with the buff, win the next fight, kill their structures for free, and then just repeat that cycle. It makes the weaker guild win against the stronger guild more consistently than not. Hell, we saw Vertex beat Black Rose yesterday and Relevance beat Corrupt yesterday, and on paper, both those guilds should lose those fights. And that's just like the beginning, right? This buff also, it punishes players for defending themselves. And this is something that we've seen more than once in this game and with these developers. I mean, the karma system is something else that punishes you for defending yourself. But like, I just don't understand. You're taking away the ability to play the game from these players. Like, they're getting punished for defending themselves. That's not a good place to be. It's just really, really, really bad for the game. I can see if this doesn't get changed, I will start hearing major complaints of people wanting to quit and not wanting to go to Node Wars at all within 10 days.
Yeah, I definitely.
The buff is. It's sorry about that. I think the buff itself. I kind of like the idea of a buff that works like that, but just not one as oppressive. Like maybe something that has maybe the hill mechanic on it, right? Like the hill mechanic is already pretty good, but it's nothing that'll be like, oh my god, that's game changing. But it's something that might be okay to use. But the DP plus the heal is already good on its own. And then you throw, which is the best potential buff in the game, which is giving classes super armor for 30 seconds on everything. It's not even skills. Like you can walk and have super armor. It's not healthy.
Well, I mean, there's also a very, very easy solution to this, to the point, like, it's so obvious that I feel like maybe they made a mistake in implementation, because it's like, let's switch the 2 cooldowns. Make this buff have an hour cooldown, and the respawn have a 5-minute cooldown. Does letting weaker guilds respawn and try again really hurt? No.
I think I'd probably agree with that. I think the respawn one, I honestly think give the other one an hour. That way it's like a big, like you want to win. And then, or even 30 minutes. It has to go up by a significant amount.
By a lot. Because right
And
now
I
it's every
think
other buff.
I think the respawn one actually definitely is not as weak as the other one. but I think both buffs should be bare minimum like 20 plus minutes. I think the
Yeah.
respawn one could actually go down a bit, and the free win button needs to go up way more.
I feel like the respawn could realistically be 15 minutes and it would be fun. And I honestly think that this God mode button should either not exist altogether because it's a horrible implementation, or it should be something you can use once in a war because it is an automatic team fight win. It is not close. It is stupid. When I watch the strongest guild in the game who kills the second or third or fourth, depending on how you score them, digital, guild in the game in 20 minutes, pretty consistently, 20, 25 minutes, it looks like. I watch them get 100% blue fed by digital using this buff. And then, not only that, I watch them take massive losses to Dandelion while they're running this buff, who is a guild that doesn't even score high in the T2, like the T230 man scene. And it's just like, it's not fair, man. It's honestly, you've got all these players who play their hearts out for the game. They enjoy playing. They spend a ton of their time to gear up and be in a guild and push their guild forward and be stronger. And they just get shit on by some people who get free shit for lack of bringing. I don't know. I don't need to take that any further.
There's no counterplay to it. It really
there isn't. There isn't. Like
your only counterplay is to run, and that's not really a counterplay.
I got hit by it on Spartan's base yesterday. I told my ball to run west for 22 seconds. I just said, run. Just run. Do not fight them. Do not engage. Don't try to kite. Just run your asses off as far as you can.
The thing is, against like a more coordinated guild, I don't think you can really even disengage. Like,
you can disengage.
I don't think you can with the amount of Zerka Q buffs and the amount of like catch potential some classes like Nova have. I think disengaging just means a full wipe.
You'll lose a lot.
Yeah.
The problem is there's key cheese to the game right now that I don't really want to point out because I don't want it used against me. But realistic, fuck it. It's for the good of the game, right? Right now, you can start outside someone's base, run it on their base, tell your players don't kill their structures, have your own CC heavy players at home or DP meme, stuff like that, have them slow the burn on any kind of counterplay to this, and just tell your players go straight for their structures, try to kill as few players as possible. Wipe, come back with the buff, have permanent tempo on the enemy base, if not kill them outright in 5 to 7 minutes. This is on a T2 45 man plus.
I mean, it's similar to old pre-war CTG, basically, where because of like, at least in the first part with the buff, where you int, you come back, you int again, then you pre-war, and then you use like a real war. Like it's basically just having back-to-back like strong pushes on a guild, and they can't really respond with it.
Because, well, I mean, the other thing,
if you're throwing face, then you're not trying to get kills. You're not getting your percent bar down.
The other thing is loads. Like you guys have been on T3 since this came out. You were on a 50 yesterday and a 40 today. We went to a T2 30 yesterday, and I'll tell you this: flat structures don't exist. They just die instantly. It's as bad as it was before. The T2 one shot metagame's back.
Yeah, I watched a few. I watched, I think Jackie, he was on a T2, I think, yesterday against Relly, and they lost basically their entire base in one wipe. And I think the respawns were still they're around like 25, 30.
Yeah.
So losing all your structures in 25, 30 seconds is kind of atrocious. But.
You notice the difference between like our power level in Spartans, right? Like this is an obvious thing. We couldn't keep a flag on them first off because they just bypass and kill your flag with 10 people in 5-10 seconds. It's literally faster than your main ball can rotate back. Your flag dies. And as soon as I got tired of what was going on and just said, fuck it, we're going to play like the old style, we killed their base in 3 pushes. With their build, like we killed all their buildings on the first push except for the defensive structures because flames are still tanky. Flames are definitely still tanky. Then we killed the one flame that was guarding their tower, and we killed their tower with 40% killed it. It's so bad. It is just horrible. And they use the instant respawn and they use the super buff. And I mean, realistically, we should have wiped, but we just ran. We ran and ran and ran and ran. And then we just turned around as soon as it wore off and killed them. It's just horrible. Like, you're punishing players for playing the game properly, and that's just not good.
Yeah, the other idea I had, right? So let's say Biz takes a while to change his skill. What if the top end Node War and C skills just agree to not?
I mean,
won't happen.
That's come
It
up
won't
in
happen.
that's come up in our discussions in my Discord as well. But I mean, like Loads is saying, like you can't trust each other for like we just never have been able to, right? And you'll be like, sure, but then all of a sudden someone's going to accuse someone of playing dirty, and it's going to get popped
Yeah,
off,
I
and
mean
shit's
the
just going to go
problem
dumb.
the problem with that is that one, you need like people to agree and to not use it, and then on top of that, just like you're forcing the player base to be the fix to it. Like you
Yeah, I
don't
know.
want
I
to
understand.
force the players to be the band-aid fix to a mechanic that shouldn't realistically be in the game, right?
Yeah. I talked to Min about this already. He says that they're looking into this issue. Apparently, all the players are
I
being.
mean, this was in Korea, if I'm not mistaken, for
Yeah.
quite some
No,
time, right? Like
no.
Oh wait,
it wasn't. I thought
To
from what
my
I've heard.
knowledge, it was not, but I could be wrong.
it was.
From what
I heard it
I
was
was
on
I was
Global
hearing that it
Labs.
was.
It was on Global Labs a couple of months
Yes,
ago.
it was on Global
Gotcha.
Labs, but I have heard that it was not on Korea.
So it wasn't actually fully implemented, but now it is. But
That
I
this,
mean,
yeah.
they should know pretty quick here that it's
Okay,
not a good mechanic.
I'm gonna be honest, right? APOC was getting ready to return to higher cap nodes and come play the game again, more or less, right? Because we figured we've been yesing out a lot of people to do what we've been doing, and like it's starting to pick back up. These siege announcements created a bunch of hype and shit like that. And now I'm legitimately sitting here as a leader, going, I'm watching these wars and going, dude, how do I mitigate the tilt for my players? Do I just stay on 30 mans and tell people not to take it seriously for another week? Like, what is going on? I don't even know what to do from a leadership standpoint, because this is going to make us all tilt off the face of the earth, man. It doesn't even feel good to win with. Let's be real.
I mean, it is hilarious to literally not have to worry about what you do because you're basically protected by this buff.
Yeah, we had 8 guys defending against Spartan last night. We were on a 22-8 split. The one buff we got to use 1, and Spartan got to use 8.
Yeah, let's
The
talk about that
one
real quick as well. So with the 100% meter, what happens is for every death you have, you gain 2% on the meter, and for every kill you get, you lose 1% on the meter. So what do you guys think? How the buff?
every minus 50 is a free buff.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
and the other
mean,
thing is you have a secondary guild like Dandelion run it at Cho tonight, for example, and then Cho just can't get theirs because they have to wipe them off their base or they lose shit, and they don't get to contest Digital, who's getting to run at them with his buff I think it was every third push, right? And it's just like,
it definitely makes it a lot harder. Like it makes it almost unwinnable in a 1v2 unless the guilds that they're fighting are incredibly weak. Like really weak. Like didn't bring enough players for the cap week.
yeah, dude, I don't know. Like a guild like Spartan, it takes us straight at that distance. We would have waited 10 minutes, kind of fucked around to get the flag. And then we would have placed flag and we would have probably killed them in about 10 to 12 minutes, right? That's just how that goes prior to this change. And with this change, it took us an hour and 10 minutes. I want to say half of that was adjusting back to the old meta because that's where we are. And honestly, the old meta that we just went back to is one of the unhealthiest metas we've ever seen in this game. Like people can complain about tanky structures all they want, but this is worse.
Yeah,
And it took us like 35 minutes to full adjust back, and then we just couldn't keep a flag up, which again, this is horrible for the game. And eventually we just decided we were done with it and we didn't die at their base and we just 3-pushed them. Like it's just
I mean, as far
you
as tanky structures, I mean, I think that's another discussion, but I think there's a pretty easy way to fix it, to be honest.
I think you run it back half. You don't run it back 80%. Like right now
I think
structures are 10% tankier than they were before.
yeah, I think you definitely go 50%.
Yeah.
50% or close to what the T3s are at. I think the T3s seemed tanky enough, but not like ridiculously tanky.
yeah.
Gutter's been watching a lot of wars and stuff too, and he seems to think T3s are serviceable right now.
All
I
right.
like T3s. It's not beating your head, but it's not.
So yeah, so let's talk about the reduction in structure tankiness. So previously, a couple weeks ago, they made update to the structures tankiness of like some of the weaker structures like supplies, recoveries, and observatories. So they were actually extremely tanky along with flags. But recently they introduced a patch where I think they reduced the tankiness on a lot of the structures, apart from the fort, by like 50%, right?
As in yesterday or
Uh,
Wednesday?
it
The
was
previous patch before this one, right?
previous patch. They reduced
Yeah, it
like
was.
the damage reduction by like half on a lot of the structures. And
Yeah, so
it's
for the
yeah,
upcoming one, they definitely reduced them by, I think, up to what, like 33%, 20% for the T4s,
yeah,
and then everything
and
else is escalating all the way up to like 80% in the T2s, and the T1 forts basically don't exist.
yeah. And we did some damage. So, like, from our 1v1 with relevance yesterday, and for today, we did some damage testing on some weaker guilds. You can full burn a base on tier 2s at least, in like under 30 seconds. Like, just full
Yeah, we're
burn
back
it.
to that. Yep. So prior to the buffs, we were at 22-second was our limit, our record. We could full burn a base on a 40-man node in 22 seconds. By math, I believe, I didn't do this math myself. This was from one of my guildies. He says stuff is about 10% tankier than it originally was now. That leads us to believe that we could full burn a tier 2 fort in 25 seconds now. This is bad for the game. People were having fun with the stronger structures. Yes, it was a little irritating when you'd fight a super strong guild that was like similar to your strength level, so like the top 5 really, because it was very hard to actually make progress, but it was rewarding, right? And what's going on right now with these structures is you no longer want to fight players, you just want to fight buildings. And when you just want to fight buildings, you de incentivize actual PvP. And the only thing that becomes important is winning. And it's like, I understand that that's how competitive players are. They like to win, right? But people play this game for PvP, not PV structure.
Yeah, I agree. And what do you think about this topic, Loads?
Um, I mean, personally, I think the previous, so the one before this recent change, where like how it used to be, where it was really squishy, where if you CTG'd someone and they didn't have anybody there for like 20 seconds, they lost, was really bad. The buff structures, the one we had previously just before this recent patch, I think most of the things were in a okay state. I think rebuilds needed to be a little nerfed as far as how much damage they took, the actual rebuilding part, just because
Yes.
how quick they come up. So like tanky structures plus they come up too quick, it wasn't fun.
It's not
Flags
fair.
themselves needed to be nerfed pretty hard. The actual flag. I think as far as some of the annexes, I think recovs and like the soft structures, recov supply needed to be nerfed probably by, I would say, like 30-40% minimum. I think the flames were fine. I think the flag structures and the elephant structures maybe 20% at most. But other than that, I think it was relatively fine. Basically, most of it needed light buffs. Rebuilds needed to be definitely nerfed, and soft structures need to be nerfed just because, by nature of being like soft structures with quick rebuilds, they should be somewhat easier to kill, but not to like you sneeze on them and they die.
I honestly think that you could have been sustainable with just nerfing the actual flag itself.
Oh, the flag needed a
Yeah.
significant nerf. It shouldn't take a full guild 30 plus seconds to kill a flag.
Yeah.
That's basically like killing a fort.
I think the flag was way too strong. I think the other buildings were a little bit strong, but I also think that when Pearl Abyss, listen to me here, when you're making changes to a game, you don't make them all at once.
Do
You
incrementals.
take incremental steps. This is how you don't fuck your game and make all your players want to play Final Fantasy. I
Yeah,
say
I mean,
that
I
because
agree.
that's what's happening to WoW at the moment. Sorry.
I think incremental changes would have been nice. Like I said, I think flags. Everybody knew that. I mean, when the strategy for an entire scene is to get your flag, place it as close to your enemy base as possible, and live there is the strategy. You probably have to readjust the HP on the flag. I mean,
Yep. Yeah, they were unkillable. They were actually just unkillable.
that after the first node war we did when we had the new flag changes, I said every flag we get, min range it. There's no point not to put it there.
I agree. I had told Pepe, I believe, was either Pepe or Dragoon. One of the guys I was talking to about like the new meta with the big buildings was like when you're stronger than a guild or you're very similar strength to a guild, You can place the flag right on top of them, and they're just not going to be able to do anything about it. And when you're weaker than a guild, you can place it distant, and they're not going to have time to get out there and do anything about it. So it's like, the flags are just dumb, dude. Way too strong. And this rebuild time, like, you made shit really tanky and rebuild instantly. What the hell is that about?
I'd actually prefer to see the rebuild time get changed personally, but I mean, I think we're too deep in some of these other changes to do that now.
The thing, like, major statement, right? The thing is that this particular change de-incentivizes fighting other players, and I think that is very, very bad. Now your goal is to run it at their structures, hope you kill as little as possible, die, and then come back with the buff that you got because those players were defending themselves. You don't even get the buff for playing well. You get the buff for being a jackass. You're just running on someone's base. And what do you get rewarded? You're a fucking jackass. Like, what? Fuck off. I hate this, dude. I hate it. It's going to make more players quit the Node Wars scene. Like, they're not going to quit the game. I'm not going to be dramatic, right? But they're going to just complain and quit Node Wars. Like, fuck overnight, man.
I think they will make some changes to the skills in the next patch. If not, I feel like they're going to change this in the next patch. But you guys, let's talk about the buff firstly. Just like in terms of the changes, right? So for the Blessing of Battle buff, you guys think either the cooldown of the skill should be dramatically increased, or the skill should be a lot less stat efficient than what it currently is?
Both.
Okay. Yes, it gives you a whale pot every 3 seconds. Let's not
let's talk about some numbers here. What do you guys think the stats for that Blessing of Battle should be realistically?
30-minute minimum. Super armor, if they want to keep it on it, 10 seconds at most. HP regen, I guess you can keep it. It's pretty big, but I mean, if you want it to be a 30-second
it's cooldown,
a HP regen. But I don't think the HP regen is game changing in itself, as long as the DP gets nerfed by a bit.
No, it's statistically a whale pot every 3 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that the heal is a lot, but I mean, if it's gonna be a 30-second cooldown, they want it to be like this big like battle buff. I think it is fine if it's 30 seconds, but the SA plus the DP is what makes it strong.
The SA needs to be
nerf
removed.
the SA timer. You nerf the SA timer if they want to keep it. I think it's a shit mechanic personally.
Exactly, same.
But if they for some reason want to keep it, it needs to be 10 seconds or lower. The DP needs to probably be halved, bare minimum. Probably also lower timer on the DP buff, maybe. If you want to do it, probably 20 seconds. Basically, like 10 seconds super armor at most, 20-second DP buff, and the HP pot, the better HP pot, like 30 seconds. And it'd be a still usable buff. You have to actually use it a little smarter, meaning you can't pop it from 100 meters away and just hold W. And it'd make you actually think about when you want to use it.
I got
the other one. I think the revive should just get lowered. I think it's a funner mechanic.
Very much so. Very much. It lets the players who are getting blasted have a better chance at defending themselves, and it lets the players who are doing the blasting get more frags. That one's good for everyone. Like,
I actually think as far as strategies built around using the cooldown, it's funner for just a mechanic to like have a twist in the fight.
Dude, it also, when you're getting backdoors, you can.
Yeah, you can pop it and
exactly.
Respawn. Yeah, I like it. I like it as I really like the respawn mechanic personally. I like it. I think it's too long, but it can't be like 5 minutes. There's no way. 5 minutes is too short. I think anywhere from 10 to 30 is fine.
So here, let me speak on this real quick. So a whale potion, a green whale potion, is 500 HP, has a 30-second cooldown. This buff gives you 500 HP every 3 seconds. I don't know where the fuck this became a good idea, right? Now let's go down to the DR. It's 200 DR. A yellow whale tendon elixir, the tough whale tendon elixir, is 125 damage reduction. That is 75 less than this buff, and that has a 10-minute cooldown, right? And then on top of that, super armor and movement speed. Why? Get out of here. Like, what the fuck? Movement speed, cool. Maybe less DR. Maybe a little bit of evasion. I don't know. Give them 100. That'd be interesting. Healing? Not necessary at all. Like, it's just It's okay if you get rid of the super armor entirely. So I don't know. Mostly I agree with what Load said, but I think I'd go even more drastic. Just get the
I
shit
think if
out
you
of my
get rid of the
game.
super armor, people probably still die even with like the 500 hills.
I think
and the
so too.
like the DP plus, as long as it gets nerfed a little bit. Because I think 200 is pretty extreme, but I think the HP plus half DP with you being able to hit the ground at some point rather than just running around and just being unkillable for 30 seconds will change it a
Hold
lot.
up. I'm a C9 DR build. Let me check what my actual DR is. Give me 1 sec.
What about the cooldown loads with those nerfs to the skill? Do you still recommend increasing the cooldowns?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, oh yeah. It can't be up every other push.
The super armor mechanic in its own. If they said, "Hey, you're going to have a super armor for X amount of time," I think of that and I'm saying, "Okay, that has to have at least half hour cooldown just with the super armor alone."
All right, so Loads. I'm a C9 DR player. I have 376 DR unbuffed, completely unbuffed. This thing is giving me a 50% DR increase, just straight up.
It's a powerful skill, like way too strong.
I mean, that's actually just what PA does currently.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Let's quickly talk about in terms of the old structure tankiness and the current structure tankiness, do you think you guys can find a middle ground for some of the squishier structures or the uh or the bases of?
I haven't done T2s personally, but from what I've watched, it's going back to the one wipe, one kill, one CTG, someone's not there, you kill them quick sort of meta. I think the T3s, which is what I have done, I like that the structures are killable, so that's fun. I like that the FTs are not just you get in there, you kill them, so that's fun. It leaves a little bit for room for outplay as far as like you left your base, you don't just die unless you're actually not there at all, which can happen. But I think the T3 from when I've done it is a pretty decent medium for what I think most tiers should be aiming for. If you want to make T2s a little weaker, maybe like 15% weaker, 10%, and it would still be reasonable.
Hey, yesterday, did you guys get back to order? Or was that a base trade? I wasn't paying attention.
They CTG'd us and we were messing around with the skills. So I had advisor and Scandal obviously had GM, and we were both just messing with the skills that they're for, and they CTG'd us. So
Okay,
we
so
just
it
had
was
no way
more or
back.
less. It was pretty much backdoor.
Yeah,
Backdoor
it was a
102.
Yeah, it was a backdoor. We were. I mean, to be honest, I just wanted to see how the skills worked myself, and they really wanted to win, so they got it.
Yeah, I mean, we were playing around with the skills yesterday. I was thinking it was going to be a fun war. I mean, I'm pretty friendly with the Spartan guys these days, and I like didn't want to have like some crazy war or anything. And then I had to like actually shape up after 20 minutes of fucking around and be like, all right, we actually can't. This buff's way too much. Like this is insane.
How does the alliance work? Do you guys have 4 people that can use the skills?
No, they changed it actually. So now this was in the same patch. So yesterday. Now we work as one guild. Only Clash's side can pop this stuff, and it applies to everybody. And we've gone down to only having one CTG now as well too. And
Interesting.
our CTG applies to the whole alliance instead of each individual guild.
I think that's probably a better change overall for alliance. I think it was probably more annoying for you guys.
Well, it's a consistency thing. So it's kind of annoying at first, right? But then you start realizing you have 2 CTGs and the things you can do when you have 2 CTGs and the opponents only have 1. And
Yeah, I think it's just overall probably better for the game to just make it baseline.
It's consistency, right? Like it should be this way. This is how it should have been from the beginning.
Okay.
So,
are you guys okay with taking a couple extra minutes talking about the new Siege rewards and the new Siege system revamp?
I'm gonna kill the scene if I answer this question.
Sorry?
Oh boy, here we go.
How many minutes?
No. I just said I'm going to
for it.
kill the scene if I answer this question. But yeah, no, go ahead. I got
okay. All right. Okay, let's get started. So with the new Siege rewards, each person of a guild, if you lose, you get 150 mil per player. If the region stalemates, I think every guild gets 500 mil per player. And the winning guild gets 2 bill silver and extra 1 billion worth of items. Now, on top of that, they limited the merc system where you can only hire 5 mercs per guild. and those 5 mercs can't go above the cap number of your guild. So, for example, if you have 90 people in your guild, you can't hire, you can't have more than 90 players actually attend the siege, from what I understand. Now, in the future, I think they're planning to make it so that you can still node war when you own a region. However, I don't think that feature is available right now. Yeah, or
It is not.
Yeah.
They're saying it should be in next week.
Apparently it was
I don't
bugged
believe
or
them.
something.
Okay.
That's what they said.
So my question is, what do you guys think of the new siege reward system and how this will affect the siege scene on NA tomorrow? You guys.
Loads, you or me?
I would love to hear your opinion first.
All right, so they're good and bad. They're good because they hype the scene for the game, and it's like you guys now have something to do. You have incentives. It's fun, but they're bad because of other things. First off, it's 1 billion silver for a fort now, and your players all get 150 mil even if you don't show up. So this is essentially just better than what a payout allows you to do, and you could still do a payout, meaning every single guild that owns a node should have a fort down on siege tomorrow, no matter what. That is just objective fact. That is how shit works. That means that every region should be completely blacked out by tonight at midnight. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. That is what should happen. Now, on top of this is a negative because it means that at actual siege, you're going to have to wade through snipe forts everywhere, right? And then that's just covering the lowest tier. The middle tier incentivizes stalemating, which is fine, actually. There's no negative to that. It allows alliances like the proposed content denial squad to basically just stop people from winning and then stalemate a region so that they just keep it fair for everyone. Doesn't really matter. There's no negative to that. But so far we have something strictly better than a payout, which incentivizes sniping. This is really stupid. And then there's the winning tier, right? Everyone's hyped for the winning. They're like, oh my God, I can get 3 billion silver for going to siege. It's like, all right, at face value, that's a lot. And then you take into the fact that now you've hyped the scene and there's going to be 1 million forts on every region, that you're going to need an alliance to cap a region, pretty much, because every tier node qualifies you, which means now there's going to be like 10 guild T1 alliances. And basically, you're not going to be able to self-sustain hold a region. You're going to have to do it with an alliance, which means you're going to have to rotate the value of this win, right? So let's just say 3 guild alliance, okay? So we're going to use Cho's alliance because it's probably what's going to happen in Calpheon until us and Digital are willing to work together, which I'm honestly fine with it if it stops this from happening. But Cho Nation, Relevance, and Vertex are going to go to Calpheon tomorrow, and they're going to rotate. If I know Cho, they're going to rotate 4 weeks. It's going to be 1 for Vertex, 1 for Relevance, 2 for Cho. That being said, Vertex and Relevance are going to get 750 mil each for all their players for all their work. I mean, if you count the lost weeks, they're going to get another 450 on top of that, so 1,100, or what is it, 1,200? And Cho's going to get a bit more. Now, this is also going to take a bunch of time, right? And if you compare this to grinding, it's actually not that crazy, right? So you are incentivizing and paying people for PvP. However, the people that are coming out of the woodworks because they feel like they have to are not doing math, basically, because they don't have to. And all around, I think in the long term, it's not going to change a whole lot. You're going to have alliances running regions to cap nodes, and they're going to rotate. It's just going to re-incentivize rotating regions. And with it condensed down to only 3 regions and 2 of which are stat capped, it's going to be a rough world out there. And I expect regions to be blacked out really, really fast.
I mean, as far as what you're saying in the alliance, it's probably going to end up true just because that's the nature of how it always works. As far as like, I mean, it's already in the works, like you said, for the T1s, they'll definitely alliance. And then in reaction, let's say the T2 guys weren't planning on doing that, they'll have to do it just by default. If not, you kind of get run over by 7 guilds. I don't know. I think if it brings fight to the dying scene, I'm okay with it. Because I mean, realistically, the scene was dead. it was in Essence Dead. The rewards, they're going to be snipeable, but I personally think it's fine, whatever, because no one was doing the content, and the PvP needs to be incentivized in the first place to get attendance up. But as far as like Alliance and all that, I don't think there's anywhere to stop it, just because that's what people will do to secure the bag, basically.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm all for it for now. Until I see, I don't think the silver or anything gained is game changing, especially since orcs are out and all this stuff. It doesn't matter.
It's
So whatever incentivizes people to actually play the content, play the game, hopefully get active. I'm all for it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. Well, that's. I think that's pretty much all I want to discuss today. Unless you guys had anything else you want to talk about. Yeah.
I think, Jackie, I need to clarify my statement just now. What I was trying to say, by the way, was I think it's overhyped in terms of people thinking that they have to do it, but I do think it is good for the game, and I think it is going to be. I think the capped regions are an amazing idea. They hate me for saying that if you want, but I actually do think that creating access to in-game content for the vast majority of the player base is a great thing, and you can be crybabies about it. I'm not talking about YouTube specifically, and say the real geared players only have one region, but let's be real, the real geared players are a percent of the game. Deal with it. We only have one region. We can fight over it. That's fine. I think it's great. I think it's going to bring a lot of life to it. Now, as someone who doesn't like sieging, I kind of hate that I'm going to be forced to, but whatever, life.
So is
it's
APOC
positive.
looking at coming back to Siege like weekly, or is this just like try it out for a bit maybe?
No, I'm not gonna say weekly. We're gonna do random shit.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, we're just scouting out and seeing what things look like.
Okay.
It will not be like full attendance or crazy anything tomorrow. So if anyone's intending to fight us tomorrow and be like, "Yeah, we fucking APOC's there and we just dunked them," it's like, no, I think we're going to Siege with 40
Yeah.
players.
Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is so they took off Bayonos and Serendia, and how I think it really should have worked out is maybe cap out Bayonos, Serendia, and Medaya, and then leave Valencia Alphion uncapped, right? And I don't know what you guys think about that kind of system in the future.
I think they're going to open Kama Silva to Siege eventually, because that's what they were talking about with the new. Well, they were talking about using the region for the new Node War system that's never going to come out. And I think honestly, if they open Kama Silva to Siege, again, I'm speaking in things that probably aren't ever going to happen, but that would be your second uncapped region.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Loads, do you have any last words?
No, nothing besides I like the idea of cap sieges. I love it.
I love it.
Okay.
Get this buff the fuck out of my game, please.
Buff is pretty bad for the game.
Yeah.
It's really, really bad for the game.
Okay.
Punishing your players for playing, that's horrible. Don't do that.
Yeah. Hopefully they make some changes to this buff during the next patch, and it's less oppressive than its current state. But yeah, apart from that, we've been going for almost 40 minutes now. I want to thank Max and Loads a lot for their time. And apart from that, I will see you guys next time. All right. Have a good one. Okay, peace.